The following video is from the enQuire webinar on project outputs. It will discuss how to add a scheduled output, how to add a new output to a project, linking outputs to milestones, reporting on outputs, and inline editing functionality.
Right, so I'm going to jump on the Outputs tab. So at the top there, I've clicked the ability to add a scheduled output. Now, what it's going to show me then is what you've seen before, if you've gone this way, selecting the activity agreements. I'm going to go down and choose one of the active activity agreements for the organisation. And what I'm being presented with is the structure of that activity agreement. So the program, its flood recoveries, and within this program it's got a number of sub-programs. You can see here sub-program 2, sub-program 3, sub-program 4. And these are defined by their 6 monthly reporting blocks. So I'm going to cycle across to the Jan to June period. I'm going to identify CD 1.4 as one of the outputs this project's doing. I'm also going to look at July to December, and I'm also going to do CD 1.4 in that period. And I'm going to go, this is an 18-month project, so I'll go to Jan to June 15, CD 1.4. Right, none of that stuff in theory is new, it's what you've been able to do before. Once I've selected that or identified those three outputs, it's then presented to me by the period that they've been found, the amount I'm planning on doing in each given period. So I'm planning on doing 2 media opportunities there, 3 media opportunities, and 4 media opportunities there. So here you can see on this screen here, I've actually got one instance of CD 1.4. Okay, but here I can see the duration is the 1st to the 1st 14 to the 30th to 6/15. Okay, so what has happened then? There's a new business rule or system logic in enQuire that will go, if you're linking to the same scheduled output within the same sub-program, then it will group those outputs together. The advantage of that is you can see my budget, so what my total planned achieved amount is 9. Okay, and that's constituted by the 2, the 3, and the 4 that I plan to do over the various periods. You'll also see the previous actuals and what's outstanding. So we haven't in fact ignored the 3 milestones. If I view the milestones, here you can see this one output CD 1.4 still remembers and recognizes the 3 milestones it's linked to, as well as the periods that they have done. If I was to update or if I was to report against that output and have my output comment, you'll see my actuals will update to 4. The outstanding amount will remain 5. This column here refers to previous actuals, any actuals that referred to previously. But when I've updated it, the system knows that I'm in the current period of Jan to June. So here you can see my current actuals are 4 against that one. Okay, so all the system has done is for the sake of the ability to group CV 1.4 together and to show CV 1.4 over the duration of the project, it's used some rules to know if it's the same output, same sub-program, it can group it together. Alternatively, I can still add a new output if I have another CV 1.4 linked to other milestones in other areas, so I can still represent them individually. But the purpose, what we've tried to do here is to show project managers and field staff and program managers how they're going against particular objectives over time. What you saw here in this column here is linked current. So there's a status column that I can see here. And so CV 1.4, that refers to for this period, Jan to June, it's linked to a current milestone. I see this one here which is red, it's orphaned, which means it's currently not linked to a milestone. So from a project management perspective or from a reporting and a QA perspective, if I'm looking at this screen and I see linked current, I automatically know that this output's linked to a current milestone. If I see orphaned, I'm aware it's not linked to a milestone for this period. By clicking the Add New Output, it's going to look at the system output. So instead of having that long scrolling page, we're presented the drop-down options here. So here I can go for an on-ground work. Then the selected outputs or the available outputs within on-ground. The titles there, I can specify my title for the sake of contracting. We've got a link to the protocols, to the Queensland protocols available to determine how to use those outputs. So that's still available prior to selection. You can change the output at any point. And then the measures. Here this output has 2 units of measure, so what is it planning on doing? Planning on doing 13 hectares over 7 kilometres. So now this project has 2 orphaned outputs. I can add a third. So what I've done quite quickly is loaded this project up with the three outputs it's doing plus the scheduled output. Okay, so within those 3 add new outputs, I've now got these individual outputs listed. They all say orphaned. I can click this link output button here. What this is going to show me is CB 1.4. If I select that, you can see up here it will show me the milestones that CB 1.4 is on. If I unselect it, it'll disappear. It will also show me the orphaned outputs here. So I can select these 3 outputs at once, and you'll see they're loaded into the top bar up here. Okay? And what it's going to ask me, it's going to present again all the activity agreements. So I can pick the flood recovery activity agreement. Further filter on all those milestones down to the sub-programs here. So I'm going to filter down to sub-program 4. And here it's going to present the Jan to June, July to December. So I'll just select the second. So here you can see that these 3 orphaned outputs, and again if you roll over you can see what their titles are here, but they're active up in the bar as I've selected them there. I've filtered the activity agreement I wanted to link them to, and I've then gone and chosen the various milestones across the periods. So here you can see these 3 outputs are linked to the same milestones for each period. And now I've got all my outputs and milestones that are linked to a current milestone for the period. Again here, I can come back and I can view the milestone details, so I can check where my outputs are aligned. If I did need to change anything, I could go back to this link output screen, for instance, and I'd pick RA 2.1. And if I was unsure about that, I can select that milestone up there, and it's automatically going to navigate me to that milestone I've selected. And if I've selected that one in error, I can do that. I'll get a warning saying that you're about to change the linkage, RA 2.1 to this. I can do that. And here you'll see I've now updated that linkage to the output, to the milestone there. Again, they're still linked currently. It's just that one of those outputs are now linked to a new milestone. You'll also notice RA 2.1's come up with a W. What that means is even though I added a new output, RA 2.1 was in the schedule. Okay, it was a scheduled output. I've just gone the other way to do it. So the system knows even if you've chosen it as new and linked it to a milestone, if it was an indicative output, it will come up and take it out. This information here, view milestones, comes in handy because you'll see the status of the milestone, you'll see the period in which the milestone belongs, and you'll see how many you've actually delivered against that milestone there. And if I did need to split anything, here I can come and update specifically on that. So if that was, I did 2 in that period instead of 4 in that period. So what I've showed you there is quite advanced functions of being able to split my actuals over the milestones. And it's really something I could only imagine those at the pointy end of reporting to undertake, but there's a lot of flexibility within how we manage and how you link and how you can report against. But the most basic premise for project managers, I guess, on this screen is if you come along and you see linked current, you know that those outputs are good for this current milestone period. When you come along to the report interface, what it's going to show you is your twice yearly reporting, the reporting period. You can open up to see what it consists of, and this is output reporting. If you click on that there, it will bring to all the outputs that are done there. There's a rule that you'll see there, and Carisys might also tell you, ordinarily I would have only had the 4 outputs, but here you can see this output. I've reported 2, but I also reported ahead of schedule, so that's automatically brought that into this current reporting. The same happens with the past milestone. If it's marked as incomplete, it will automatically get brought through into the reporting. And so once in the reporting, by clicking update or double-clicking on the line, you're presented this interface here which gives you your output, title, category, how many you've actually achieved versus how many you've budgeted, a percentage complete over the life of that, the ability to add output comments, and over time you'll start noticing it bring through the historical actuals, so how you've achieved this output over time, plus any additional information or any additional comments from past periods. So Instead of seeing outputs as a one-off, you'll now see outputs over their life cycle. The premise is the same. You report your actuals for a given period. The actuals will go against an appropriate milestone, but you can see a lot more context and a lot more history about that output. In terms of the interface, you can save these individually and update them, or save and next down the bottom there, or cycle you through this output list there. There was my output comment you can see from earlier in the percentage completion. See within a row here, these little drop-down arrows, and you might start seeing these arrows a bit more with more of the newer objects we're developing. That refers to an inline function. So here, by clicking an arrow, it presents other options that I can do. So view milestone was that screen before where you could see the milestone relationships and the output details. Update. Update is the same as reporting. So what we have edit functions, which are baseline. So if I was to edit the budget amount, or if I was to update, they're the actual amount. So an update function, you'll see this within budgets, within tasks, within outputs. Update is I'm going to update how I'm progressing against it. So that's where I'm changing my actuals, I'm changing my percentage complete, and I'm adding my comments. All right. There are some rules around previously reported outputs not being able to be edited and so forth. So I did need to go and view milestone details. Here you'll see on a future milestone I can still come here and edit. But here's an example of being able to edit something, which is the budget amount, or update something, which is the actual amount, the completion, and the comments. Okay, so update is what you'll see when you're reporting. It also ties better into our external reporting rules, obviously, to ensure not everyone can edit data. People can only update certain aspects of data.
Thank you. This concludes the enQuire webinar. For more tips and hints, please visit enquire.net.au.